The first part is what I call attribution foundations, essentially like very high level elevated discussion on what is the problem statement that attribution encompasses. The second is kind of now going into the solutions themselves, different tools and techniques you can deploy to solve the problem. We talk about marketing mix modeling, incrementality testing, like a primer, a very high level introduction to those areas, right?
One of the best things that I can advise a client on, a marketer on, is to always set aside budgets for test and learn, where that ambiguity can absolutely live. If it's like a 90-10 or an 80-20, there's a tolerance level that every organization has, and it's my job on the agency side to really help understand what that tolerance level.
So I have two big ones that I would say fall into the approach with caution bucket. So one is what I would call vanity metrics. And so vanity metrics are basically usually things like impressions, again, ones that are hard to action on, but people can point to them and say, oh, look at how many people saw this post. How could you say that there wasn't, deeper value to this? Those kind of things fall into the vanity metrics bucket. I'm deeply suspicious of those without corroborating evidence for those.
And my colleague, we work at Open Store. So we are a collection of smaller Shopify-based brands. We are around 50 brands.
Over at Yelp, I'm so excited to be here. Really excited to kind of take my attribution knowledge and bring it to the next level. Madan, we were in your class before, and it was absolutely great.
Again, incredibly interesting class. I'm always kind of like surprised is not the right word. I'm kind of feel incredibly blessed to have amazing speakers who just come to class and offer up their wisdom just out of the goodness of their hearts, right? They come in and they share, probably 20 years of.
It's a very simple playbook. It's just over communicating, making sure that there's a fundamental understanding of how your strategy on the marketing side is going to impact revenue. And, because there's always the idea if you cut marketing to zero, you're still going to make money. There's still going to be revenue coming in. And so, it's helping, whether it's your CFO or your SVP of finance, whomever you're dealing with, to understand around the idea of,
Can you get a thumbs up for how many people are actually doing hands-on budgeting decisions, hands-on media buying, stuff like that?
As the client at times, it's really, when I think of objective, it's action. What action am I going to take as a result of doing this test? And that's the internal conversation as well as the conversation with.
So my question's kind of related to what you were saying about the podcast. I have a post-purchase survey, and I think one of the challenges I have is trying to quantify our influencer part of.
That's that question. How do you set up time-bounded multipliers? How do you think about it? And then we'll jump a little bit into what we call marketing accounting framework. Ton of tools we use for delivering on clients. We work on clients who've developed a bunch of in-house tools, and MMM tools, and incrementality testing tools, and triangulation tools, and reporting frameworks, and all that stuff. We're beginning to package them up and offer it to them.
But I'm a media buyer in my heart. Originally display, then social, and now I am working on making sure that I can buy in any platform out there.
My main focus or verticals is I love mom and baby, CPG food, and anything else I think I could be successful for that the algorithm favors, impulse buy products, and I tend to stay away from products that men buy because men don't buy anything. My claim to fame is I kind of figured out Facebook was a creative game within the first month in 2015, and I just ran with it.
So today is the hands-on analytics practitioner and data science hat, okay? If you guys have that one, just grab it, put it on. It's going to be get your coffee and get an Advil, get ready for some pain, okay?
So number one, really it's the concept of geospatial, right? So way back in 2006, MySpace, right? They coined the term hyper-targeting. And that was essentially the ability or the idea of taking geographic location and applying it. Location plays an extraordinarily important role in understanding all of the drivers of our sales, the sales themselves, and also, if you use your data correctly, opportunity for where you may be sort of leaving money on the table, which none of us want to do right now.
We go to the sensitivity part of this tool. And what is sensitivity? So in this case, we are looking at Facebook prospecting. So when we do sensitivity analysis for Facebook prospecting, what we are trying to do is we are trying to assess what Facebook prospecting's course contribution is towards the overall acquisition revenue.
So to begin with, when we start looking at planning a geo-test project, we need to think about it in 3 different phases. And the first phase would be your geo-test design phase, and the second phase would be your test flight phase. Finally, we will do an analysis of the geo-test results, right? So in the first...
Right, so, what we see is we're kind of calculate that we're getting them, and people say, oh yeah, let's put the money in, and then everyone pulls back the minute the performance isn't what it was before. When money-wise, like if you are spending over $100,000 a week, we almost know that's always going to result in some form of diminishing return.
Get your phones ready. There's a thing called Kahoot. We're going to ask you to log into Kahoot. It's all online, and pick answers, multiple choice answers based on questions we pose for you. So it'll be fun. It's a great way to learn the basics of distributions, basics of normal distribution, mean, standard deviation, a lot of the fundamentals of what you might think of as the statistics that you need for tests.
This part of statistics for marketing analytics, it's a great thing. Me, one of my students, Vamini, and Bharati, along with Madan, we have put in a lot of thought. In my opinion, we have sort of simplified the content so that it can reach within like 35 to 40 minutes. That's what we are. But then if you look at the topics that we cover, it's about like 4 or 5 big topics. So the H0 and H1 stands for the null and the alternate hypothesis. The state of the art is called the null hypothesis. You're not changing anything, so it's called the null hypothesis, whereas the contesting hypothesis is the alternate hypothesis, right?
Now, why I got into the Bayesian thinking, which technically speaking is the Bayesian inference, but then there is a bit of translation, starting with AI community of let's now start to be rational by implying Bayesian inference into the way we think to be rational, be driven by the data, so update our beliefs based on what we see, and have all these kind of ways to understand the world.
What is interesting, what Nuno said, or the presentation, really interesting. One of the things I could tell actually is that much of what Nuno said, you can also apply to any model or method you use to use the historical data to make predictions, do optimization, all the things we do in marketing. For example, when we're building marketing mix, what do? We get some data from the past. We postulate a model. And what is a model? It's a set of coefficients, parameters that combined with the data produce.
Get into this UI, this is our studio UI. And what you would have is a terminal console and few files in the right-hand side. You would have all of these except for the last one.
To the Jupyter notebook, and I'm going to show you how we can run lightweight MMM, Orbit, and I will do the direct comparison between 3. Okay, because Robin, you already seen that.
So last class of the cohort, you will try and.
But we are going to walk through just a lightning round of what is CRM experimentation, why is it important, why are brands employing it right now, and then we'll dive into how we've applied that to a brand that we worked with, an athleisure brand, and what they ultimately did with these results.
So yeah, this is the same P&L report that we looked at before BFCM. Right, so this was the pre-period, and this is the same report. This is pre-BFCM period. So we did the same thing for BFCM, right? So it's not only measuring the retention progress, it can also measure the new customers, the entire business.
And so I guess just going back to that first point around how do you communicate, for me, the first step in any communication is who are you talking to? What are their desires? What are their objectives, right? And then how do you translate those objectives to Jack's point about the broader enterprise objectives, and then create a framework where activities have contributions from all those different parts, right? So
first things that we typically try to do is create a partnership vision, because remember, from an E2E perspective, I'm not just an advertiser on a plan, I'm a partner. I have all these capabilities and services, and so I want to talk about how we partner across your business through this vision, and how we can help move it forward. So in terms of the communication piece, I think within the partnership vision, a document that many companies will use is a joint business plan. And so it can be our executive stakeholder at the company who can help us develop that joint business plan in partnership with all of the different teams that he works with.
But hopefully we'll all hang out together in the community, and there's questions we can sort of use this as a great way to network and support each other in our own pursuits. All right. With that, you guys all jump.